Okay, so this is my 1997 BMW Z3 1.9 liter. Yes, the slow one. Now, this is my third BMW Z3. I had a seatbelt. I had a 2.5, and I had the M Roadster, both of which I really liked, but they went by the wayside, you know, just like everything does. But I saw this car for sale down the street. It came from Arizona. It had piles upon piles of maintenance records, high miles, 150,000 miles on it. That wasn't really a worry because of all the maintenance records, and I took it for a spin, didn't leak a drop of oil. I took it up the highway at speed limit, didn't shake, didn't do anything, so I bought the car. Now these cars are actually like an incredible value for what you can get, because somehow they're somewhat forgotten about. Personally, I think that they look incredible, but for some odd reason, people don't really notice them or care about them. Right now, the market, and this is, you know, 2021, end of 2021, it seems like it's coming down a little bit, but right now the market is like nuts on everything, including what I would consider this car's primary competition, which is the Mazda Miata. Now, there are pretty major differences between this car and a Mazda Miata. For starters, I mean, a Mazda Miata is going to be the track day car of choice for nerds. I mean, track day people. It just is. It's a little bit lower to the ground. The motor's better, really, for that kind of thing, for driving around a parking lot full of cones. They're much, much more tunable. You can get a good amount of power out of them, and like the aftermarket for them is like incredible. This car is not a direct competitor to the Mazda Miata for a couple of reasons. This car is much, much, much softer and more comfortable and easier to live with than a Mazda Miata will ever be. Okay, I am 6'2", and I have fit in every single one of these cars just fine. BMW does a really incredible job of making tall people fit in very small spaces. With that said, I mean, the ride, so this car is dead stock. The ride is really, really nice on these things. I mean, it's so comfortable. You know, like I said, you could really easily just drive this thing around as your daily, you know, if you had to have one car and live with it just fine. I mean, right now, I'm cruising along at 40 miles an hour. You know, when we're driving along, everybody gets stuck behind a big econo box eventually that's going speed limit on the dot, not a millisecond faster. And you need a car that's going to be comfortable at both at speed and both at regular speed. And these cars do that job really, really well. I mean, it's just, you know, I would roll the window down if I didn't want to get some wind noise in here, but I cruise down the road with this thing all the time, just one arm dangling out the window. And they're just so comfortable, and they're so easy to use. Now this car, again, it's a 1.9, and I'm sure this isn't a spoiler out there, but it's not particularly fast. I'm not gonna lie. The fun thing about the 1.9 is that you can rev the shit out of it. I mean, it only goes to 6 1/4. But you just rev it, you use that 6 1/4 every single time you drive it. You know, a lot of modern cars today, they're putting out easily 200 horsepower at 4,000 RPMs, and you have to just short shift everything, because the fact of the matter is, we live in a world where there are speed limits. I don't love them, but you have to obey them to some degree. And those cars that are putting out 500 horsepower stock with stick shifts, they're completely unusable. It's fun, you know, it's fun from time to time when you decide, all right, I'm going to give it a go, getting on a highway on-ramp or whatever, or if you just live your life as an outlaw and say, screw it, I'm just going to get the tickets. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of these cars, you got to find a car that's fun to drive on a day-to-day basis, and these things do a really, really great job of that. You know, you can have fun in a car like this, even with the bigger engines. You know, the 2.3, the 2. I don't even remember what they make. Is it a 2.3, 2.5, 2.8? I mean, they go up and up and up, and then obviously you've got the M Roadster. But this car, I didn't count, you know, actually, I take that back. I originally counted the 1.9 completely out of a car that I would ever buy. From what I read on the forums and everything and the reviews, are that the 1.9, it's a dog, it's terrible, don't buy it, you're gonna hate it, blah, blah, blah. But it really isn't. I mean, you know, this car, again, I expected it to just completely fall flat on its face off of the line. Rev slowly, have really no power or sort of seat pushback factor in it whatsoever. But this car, it actually really, really surprised me. Now, again, I'm not saying it's fast. It isn't fast. But these cars are not about actual speed. They're about the sensation of speed. And the 1.9 manages to do that adequately. I'm not going to give it any more than an adequate. You know, I think that one of the bigger straight sixes would definitely be more fun. But we'll also, I mean, on a car that weighs as little as this does, you'll be cracking speed limit in absolutely no time. You know, for the price savings that you can get a 1.9 for, it's a hard argument to make against it. I think that the actual power output is like 140 horsepower, something like that. And again, I thought that it was really going to be slow, but it isn't, or at least feels slow. You know, I mean, let's see if I can find a space here where I can open the old girl up. All right, so here we go. All right, off we go. Full to 6,500, and I'm on it at third, and I'm still going reasonably slow-ish, legal-ish. You know, I mean, if I were to do that in a CL63 or a modern M3 or any, I mean, I'm going 100 miles an hour in that time. And this thing, I just had a blast, had a great time gunning it through the rev range, hit every single RPM number that I could, had a great time, and now I'm just cruising along still at relatively legal speed. And then, you know, so once you get that off of your chest, oh, one thing I actually wanted to note is that these things are so soft that the front end actually picks up a little bit when you do that, even on the 1.9. So it's just kind of hilarious. Adds to that sensation of speed a little bit more, you know. But I mean, it's just, there's a hard argument to make for the cost to get much of anything else when you're looking for a car like this, because, you know, obviously you can get the Miata, but you have to have another car if you're going to have a Miata. You just have to. Miatas, I know a lot of people are going to hate me saying this, but Miatas fucking suck to drive. They're absolutely terrible to drive anywhere other than around the block for fun. They are terrible in every other regard. And I've owned a Miata. I've driven a Miata. How far did I drive it in one shot? 150 miles on the highway in a massive rainstorm. And it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I did it because a buddy of mine was buying it off me, and he had no ability to come get it. So my wife followed me down, and she was sure I was going to end up dead, and I was 50-50 on it, honestly. So that's the story with the Miata. Now, what other options are there in this sort of segment? For this price, really nothing. I mean, the Mercedes SL, which I've done a review of, but the Mercedes SL, apart from the fact that the roof goes up and down, it's a completely different car. Mercedes SLs are not sensation of speed cars. They are take her out on the weekends, you and the wife, go speed limit to the ice cream shop and go speed limit home. That's the kind of cars that they are. This is a very, very different car. This is it's still a BMW at heart. It's still about the sensation of speed and sport, and it does a very good job at that. I mean, this car is also, what I like to say, is the perfect combination between, you know, getting a Miata, which will give you all of the sensations that you want and will handle well and will have the better aftermarket and whatever, and the SL. I mean, you can still cruise around on this car, arm out, dangling out the window, driving one-handed, relatively comfortably, and really have a nice time. So these cars kind of really do it all. Now, obviously, if you've got more money to spend, I would suggest you spend more. If you've only got a little bit more money to spend more on a Z3 with an i6. If you've got a lot more money to spend, don't get a Z3. But if you've got $5 grand to spend and want a sports car like this, the Z3, even a 1.9, is a really, really great value. And aside from, you know, just the driving experience, you know, I'm a kid, I was born in the 80s, I'm really a kid of the 90s. I love, love, love 90s BMW interiors. I just love them. I don't care that they creak and the plastics are cheap and whatever. I just love them. There's almost even a smell to them that I like. This has got like the 5th or 6th E36 era BMW that I've had. And I love it just the same. You know, if I was to have some complaints about this car, let's say, I mean, the seats in the early Z3s are absolute trash. There's no argument to be made there. They're just basically cardboard boxes with some leather stuck on them. Particularly in the non-sport version. The sport seats are actually kind of all right. Those are the ones you get in the M cars. Let's see, what else? I mean, you know, as you know, as everybody who owns or has owned an E36 BMW or 90s BMW in general, the plastics creak. I mean, you hear that, it's just constant. I mean, part of my problem is I've got to lean up against the bolster because I'm so tall. That creaks. You know, the plastics look kind of cheap and they have this like sort of lining on them that starts to fade off. But honestly, the dash on this car doesn't really look all that bad. Let's see if we can get a little view. You know, this is the interior of the Z3. I mean, it's really, I think it's kind of cool. You know, one of the big problems that these have is the door cards start falling off, which has started happening on this car. It's going to happen. But I think that the interior of these is really cool, you know, when compared to really anything that it competes with. I mean, what else is there really to say about this car? Let's take a sort of exterior tour. I mean, this is the rightest color combination that you can get of these things. Hell rot. Well, you know what? I might have to take that back. Estoril blue is incredible, but hell rot on black looks pretty incredible on these things. I never thought I would own a red car, but you know, I thought that they looked a little too effeminate for a big strong man like me. But this one looks really, really good. This car, like I said, it came from Arizona, so it's got a little sun fading and whatever, but I mean, it's lasted really, really well. I mean, just look at this. It looks so cool. They really do. So, I think that that's really all I have to say about my Z3. I really like it. You know, if you've been thinking about getting a Z3, but you can't find one in your budget with the quote-unquote right motor with an i6, check out the 4-cylinder. Take it for a spin. I mean, seriously, you know, if you care about trying to compete at the drag strip, Z3 is not the right car for you anyway. But if you really just care about driving sensation and having some fun and shifting through the gears, hitting red line from time to time, the 1.9 is not a terrible option. All right, thank you very much.